Before we start finessing our program by adjusting clips and their edit points, let's learn how to quickly navigate ourselves around the timeline. There's a lot of great shortcuts that you can use to move your playhead exactly where you need it to be without ever having to touch your mouse. One of the most frequently used keyboard shortcuts is the up and down arrow keys. By using the up arrow key, you can jump to previous edits, and the down arrow key jumps you forward in the timeline to subsequent edits. If you want to quickly get to the beginning of your timeline or to the end of your timeline, the home key and the end key will get you there. And you can find the home key and the end key directly above the up and down arrows on your keyboard. Now, if you're working off a laptop or one of Apple's smaller keyboards, you may not have a dedicated home and end key. Usually you'll have a dual purpose key, which is the left and right arrow keys modified with the function key. Hold down the FN key and press on the left arrow or the right arrow, and that will jump you to the head or tail of your program when you're working on one of these smaller keyboards. Another very useful keyboard shortcut is again using the left and right arrow keys, but this time holding down the Shift modifier. If you hold down the Shift key and press, say, the left arrow, you'll jump backwards in your timeline by 1 second increments. Holding down the Shift and pressing the right arrow key will move you forwards by 1 second increments. Now, of course, we learned in one of our very first lessons the ability to use J, K, and L to navigate through your timeline. But there's two additional keys if your pinky's not getting the workout that it should, and that's the apostrophe key and the semicolon key. So if your three middle fingers are resting on J, K, and L, simply use your pinky to hit the apostrophe key to move forward, or the semicolon key to move backwards by 1 edit point. We also learned you can zoom in and zoom out on your timeline by holding down the Command key and pressing plus or minus. Now, this keyboard shortcut also works if you have your viewer or your canvas selected, but what happens here if you press Command plus is you actually are zooming into the framing of your picture or zooming out to the framing of your picture. If you do this accidentally, simply use Shift Z, which is the same fit to window command that you would use in your timeline. Now, there's another really useful keyboard shortcut to zoom in and zoom out which can avoid this problem. Command plus and Command minus is great, but you need to make sure you have the timeline selected. If you use Option plus and Option minus, no matter which window is selected, you will always zoom in on your timeline. Now, while talking about zooming in on our timeline, let's take a look at how Final Cut Pro thinks. If nothing is selected and you zoom in, using Option plus will of course zoom in wherever the playhead is parked. Now, if you have a clip selected, Final Cut ignores where the playhead is, and when you hit Option plus, it zooms in specifically to that clip on the timeline. Here's a little-known keyboard shortcut that can really save you some time. If you're working on a very large show where you have a lot of edits and you want to zoom into just a section of that show, simply lasso the clips you want to work on, and instead of hitting Shift Z for Fit to Window, hit Shift Option Z, and that's Fit Selection to Window, and you'll zoom into precisely those clips to work on them. I'm going to click on Shift Z so we fit the entire timeline to our window, and I want to talk to you a little bit about other ways we can move the playhead. First of all, let's deselect all the clips in the timeline. The easiest way to do this is to simply click on any gray area, or the keyboard shortcut for that is Shift Command A. That's deselect all. Now, with no clips selected, we can start using some numerical entry to navigate through our timeline. Now, you don't have to select any specific dialog box. Simply go over to your numeric keypad and start typing in a number. For instance, let's say I wanted to work at exactly 5 seconds into my show. I simply press 500. Now, I didn't click anywhere within the interface, but you'll notice in the upper left-hand corner of my timeline, in the text entry box, you'll see 500. As soon as I press the return key, I will see the colon pop in for 5 seconds, and my playhead is going to jump to 5 seconds into my show. Also, take a look at what happens in my canvas. That will also jump to 1 hour and 5 seconds, and you'll notice that we'll jump to a different shot. Now, take note, you do not need to type in the 1 hour whenever you do this. Final Cut assumes the 1 hour has been entered, so you can just simply type minutes, seconds, and frames and jump exactly to where you want to work. This is incredibly useful, for instance, if you're working on, say, a 60-minute documentary and you want to jump right to 59 minutes into your show. Instead of zooming in and dragging or figuring out how to get there, simply type in 59 minutes, 0 seconds, 0 frames. By the way, here's another great little shortcut. Instead of hitting 00, you can press the period key. Let's take a look. I'm going to jump to 1 minute into my show. 1 period. Now when I hit return, It jumps me right to the 1 minute point. I'm going to go ahead and hit Shift Z so you can see the entire timeline again, and we're going to talk about some other ways that we can move the playhead up and down the timeline. I'm going to park the playhead at this arbitrary location. It's about 4.5 seconds in, and let's say I wanted to move precisely 5 seconds forward. All I have to do is hit the plus key before I enter the number, plus 500, and now when I hit return, instead of jumping to 5 seconds in, it's going to jump 5 seconds forwards to 9 seconds and 16 frames. I can do the same thing going backwards. Simply type in minus, I'm going to go minus 16 frames, hit return, and it'll take me to precisely 9 seconds in. Now you can get your playhead exactly where you want it to be without ever having to touch your mouse.